Welcome to Season 2, Episode 15 of ChrisCast. My name's Chris Abraham, and I'm outside, and it's raining. It rained. It's wet. I'm near some roads, so you might hear some background music, or background sounds, or cars. There was even a dude, even though it's raining, who was blowing a leaf blower, which I thought was psychotic. But maybe the leaf blower is to disperse standing water. Which is my Native American name. Please forgive me for cultural appropriation for the joke. I am an animist. Hopefully that makes it okay. Today's episode is about my favorite podcast, no matter what I think about it at any one time, and that is No Agenda Show with John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry, and I will talk about that exhaustively, or at least to the best of my ability, because even though I've been listening to it from the beginning, I am not the biggest fan, or the biggest insider, or the most beloved son, or the favorite son. I'm sort of, I guess, a watcher. Anyway, come back after the ad. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Welcome back. This is Chris Abraham at ChrisCast. This is episode 15, season 2, No Agenda Show. I really got when YouTube started, and there started to be iTunes video content and YouTube content, and also web content. And then finally podcast content. I really got into the serialized content online, and then discovered with iTunes and with my various MP3 devices, and with my first iPods and iPod shuffles and all those things, I discovered serialized content, and I dare say most of it early on was NPR content. It's a great way to keep up with NPR shows. I wasn't a big fan of the probably very first, probably at the time most popular podcast, the Daily Source Code, because I didn't like stuff like morning jock, shock jock, morning jock type of content. That the one I can think the most of is like, people like I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. The people like, oh, come on. Rusty Humphreys, I kind of liked. He was crazy conservative. But I'm talking about like Howard Stern and those other kind of stuff. I never got into Stern, so I thought maybe like Opie and Anthony. I never got into that stuff. So I just wasn't a Stern head, so then I thought I wasn't going to be, and I didn't like Headbangers Ball or any of that MTV stuff, and I just assumed that Adam Curry was just just hair, man. I didn't know that he had left MTV, owning MTV.com, and then starting a bunch of tech entrepreneurial startups. I didn't know that he owned an online advertising and communications company. I didn't know that he invented podcasting. I knew Dave Weiner, but I didn't really know um, Adam Curry very much. So wasn't until I moved to Berlin where I was sort of bereft of media. Like didn't have any TV. I had Berlin NPR, but aside from that, I had anything I could download and listen to. And so what I was listening to was podcasts. So I downloaded and started listening to, in addition to everything else, a lot of the NPR stuff and the Wait Wait Don't Tell Me and the Radio Lab and all that stuff. In addition to that, and whatever came down from NPR, literally our NPR feed. There's a 104.7. I don't remember. It was in Berlin. It still is in Berlin. And I was getting all the shows that way, but I was craving more content to pass the day. And instead of learning more German and listening to the German channels, I just listened to more and more content. And I discovered Daily Source Code and fell madly in love. Totally fell in love with Adam Curry and everything he was doing. It was very cool. And he was basically a pirate radio show. He was playing all the music of his life, and it was amazing. He would share stories about himself. He would tell about the health of his mother, the death of his mother. He would talk story about what was going on in his world, and I was really behind. In fact, I was at the point where I believe he was still living in Great Britain. I don't believe he was living in Belgium or any place like that. I believe he was living in Great Britain. And then he started No Agenda, this thing with John C. Dvorak that was very unformed in the beginning, very simple, very basic. And it was just two guys talking about their lives, talking about Cessnas and flying Cessnas, talking about helicopters, talking about wine, talking about food, talking about dining, talking about their office life because they were working together. I loved it. Freaking awesome. I didn't mind that it didn't have, catchphrases or anything else like that. It was just really early. This was in 2010. And at the beginning, 20 years ago. And it was awesome, and I fell in love with it. I've been involved ever since. In the beginning, I didn't have any friends who liked it besides myself. I had a German friend, and I wish I remembered his name, and we would talk about how much money John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry were making. And even back in 2010, man, we knew it was a lot of money because they would always mention it. They'd always plead poor mouth, but then you would count the money, and it was a lot of money. Especially since they didn't do what most podcasters, most public radio people, and most people on YouTube were doing, which is outsourcing a lot of their production. Adam was doing all that stuff. He was doing soup to nuts. This is before, John C. Dvorak was enslaving his family to do the work. That came later. And most of the time, it was just about freaking amazing dinners that John and Adam would have together, and the fancy places, and mostly in San Francisco. And Adam would come in on a flight from. At first, it was London or outside of London, with his famous Dutch wife. He wasn't divorced at that point. And then he moved to LA, and he had his, I think, Christina, right? Anyway, then I think, then it ended up being The Keeper, and The Keeper's freaking awesome. But is that Christina now? I don't remember. Like I said, my mind's a sieve. And I just loved it as it evolved. I know everybody calls the gang a bunch of Trump toadies, but he was equally as supportive and disruptive with regards to Obama. I mean, I was in Berlin in 2008 when Obama was elected, and um, you know, it depends on who's lying. I think in terms of media disruption, where the lies come from is where the disruption happens. And so, No Agenda Show is a media deconstruction. And at the end of the day, it's really important. That's the meat and potatoes, and went from being a bit of a thing, with regards to John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry, basically mutually adoring each other, to being a show that was focused on politics and on war. A lot of it had to do with digging deep into what was going on with what was going on behind, with regards to the constant war that was happening in the Middle East, with regards to United Nations plans, with regards to climate change, with regards to peak oil and the lies therein, and with regards to Ukrainian natural gas and the fight of the pipelines. Always very intriguing stuff. Now it's all about Trump, it's all about coronavirus, but every step of the way, no matter what the heavy-handed push is. I mean, it even had to do a lot with deconstruction of 9/11, and one of the famous slogans was WTC7 won't go away, with regards to the viability of two towers being able to collapse upon themselves through the power of very hot jet fuel. And since Adam Curry is a pilot and John C. Dvorak is a smart kiddo, they explored whether or not jet fuel could ever spontaneously collapse to Lower Manhattan skyscrapers with exoskeletons perfectly at 9.8 meters per second square. So if you're not into this kind of thing, and you're more of a rah-rah, and you're more of a rule follower, and you're into not being open-minded, the thing about John C. and I'm a contributor. I mean, I share their stuff, but I also have paid north of $1,000 towards supporting them. I'm probably not a baronet or anything. I'm probably just hundreds of dollars over being a knight, and knighthood is what you get when you contribute $1,000 to the show. They have this model called value to value, for value, and it basically says that No Agenda Show will never run ads, will never take sponsorships, will never be at the behest of a promoter or advertiser or big business, big advertising, and the thoughts are always their own, the opinions are always their own. But what we need to do as a result is the hundreds of thousands of friends and followers, probably 1 million listeners. I don't doubt if that can be something that happens on YouTube with it must be a global wide phenomenon. With every show, there are at least 17 to 1,800 people in the chat room every episode. Like, I would say, based on my theory of being a troll, is that's only 1%. So I would say 100,000, 1,900,000. I mean, 190,000 listeners at any one time, 1 million listeners. I don't know. It's impossible to know the numbers. But anybody who donates above $50 gets their name read in every episode, and there's 2 episodes a week. They call them the 2 Thursdays, but they actually happen at noon Eastern Time Sunday and noon Eastern Time Thursday, and the shows are approximately at least 3 hours an episode. So they go through a lot of, a hell of a lot of territory over those particular times, although I would say that an hour of the 3 hours is basically sharing, giving back to the producers, talking about them, doing knighthoods, doing baronhood, people who move up in their rank with regards to whether they become a baron or a baronet, or whether they become a duke, and all these other money levels. If people are producing and they give hundreds of dollars, they get to have their note read, or if it's their birthday, or if it's their knighthood. It's very much a community, and in fact, if you go to, I think No Agenda Social is a Mastodon instance dedicated to the show. I'm at Chris there, completely committed, and if you search for No Agenda meetups or No Agenda Meet, you'll find a website dedicated to the self-coordination of gatherings for people who are fans of the show, and this happens around the world all the time. Every weekend, every week, someone organizes a meetup, a get-together, to come together and partially worship the boys, John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry, but mostly just to go ahead and talk to people who speak their language, with the touch point being the show. So obviously my best friend thinks it's a cult, thinks it's a church, thinks it's a mega church, and I would dare say, considering that churches don't advertise and that they make all their money through passing around the alms box, definitely it's John C. Dvorak is our God, Adam Curry is our Jesus, and Mother Mary is between John C.'s wife and Adam Curry's wife. Don't tell me who's Mary, Mother of God, and who's Mary Magdalene. It's up to you to decide. But and then there's 12 producers who are the biggest contributors and serious chums with the lads, and they're the disciples, and we're just true believers. So it is pretty culty. It's been accused of being, Trump toady. It's been accused of all kinds of terrible things. And sometimes I don't like the tone of people who are in I never like the tone of the people who are in the chat. They call it the troll room, but it's a live chat that happens not only all the time, but mostly during the shows. I don't like their tone, but I never like the tone of IRC. I've never been into AOL chat rooms or any kind of chat. I'm more of a asynchronous kind of guy. But it takes all type, right? It's certainly not any place at all where people are not allowed to share their true opinion. It's not a cancel culture space. It's not a get out of here, you terrible person. And I know I feel uncomfortable all the time. And I'm sure they feel uncomfortable with me a lot of the time. I share all kinds of stuff. I always share every episode of John Oliver, or I share Colbert. I share all that stuff, and nobody likes John Oliver. They think he's a punk. Think he's a liberal Nancy punk. I share Trevor Noah. Lately, during the Trump administration, Trevor Noah and Colbert have been difficult for me to listen to because they've gone completely lowbrow. They always go for the easy shots, and I just Maybe I feel protective of Trump because I think he might be a special, um, uh, on the short bus. Maybe I feel protective of him. People are so rude. I just don't like the way people behave. Um, if people behave civilly, I think I would probably be more aggressively anti-Trump. But like my rational friends behave as fire spitting as anything from the farthest right. My God, so many lies on both sides. Like there are no internment camps yet. There are no dead babies in cages yet. There are no, yet. He's a pretty. I mean, considering is it Dvorak, considering the president of the Philippines and considering what's happening in Bella, Belarus and all those other types of places, Ukraine, Central and South America. I mean, ain't got nothing on us. I mean, it's just all around the world, no matter where there are riots, people have got the water cannons and every riot police behaves that way. Like, it's not unique. I don't know why anybody expects that lawlessness will be responded to gently, gracefully, and lovingly. I'm not saying not to riot. I'm not saying you shouldn't tear everything and burn it all down. I'm not saying, loot to your heart contents, but also prepare your will, your living will, your dead will, and realize that you're gonna have to be held accountable for that behavior. And if it's pushing you towards what you want and the changes that you want in America, then bully, but don't in any way assume that anything except you're going to die is going to happen, or you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to end up quadriplegic, or scarred, or hurt, or traumatized, or you're going to lose your friends. That's just, America is not a gentle country. Ask Iraq, ask Vietnam, ask Cambodia, ask Laos, ask Iraq, Afghanistan. It's just ask the Contras, ask Venezuela, ask Costa Rica, ask Colombia. We're just ask the Native Americans. We're not very nice. Ask Texas about Mexico. Yikes. Ask the former slaves, ADOS, American descendants of slavery. America has historically been nice during the day and hella mean, hella violent at night. So there you go. Anyway, I highly recommend the show. Just search for No Agenda on Google and use whatever social podcasting platform you want. Or go to your Amazon and say, Alexa, play the latest episode of No Agenda Show. Or go, hey Google, play the latest episode of No Agenda Show. Or,
Sure. Here's the latest episode of No Agenda, 1273, False Positive, playing on Google Podcasts.
Isn't that funny? It's really going to play to... How do I stop that? I fell for my own problem. I will turn it down. So, that worked. It's also on TuneIn, it's on iHeartRadio, it's on Stitcher, it's on everything. It's even on Spotify. It's, of course, on iTunes. You should check it out. I don't know if I did a very good job. I am a knight, so you can call me Sir Chris, but only if you are, I think, thinking of me as a sucker who paid $1,000 to a radio show, or a podcast, even worse, to two guys who are freaking way wealthier and way more successful than I will ever be. I mean, it's kind of a foolish thing for me to do, but I have no regrets because it's something I value. It's something I think is cool, and I paid that money over 10 years. So, love the show. Tell me what you think. I really can't explain it any more than that. I know that there's a lot of meetups here. Hang out with DC Girl. And it's actually, a social and real and IRL part of my life. Outside of Renaissance Weekend, there's that, and my friends on Columbia Pike, and my friends from GW, and my friends from St. Louis School, and friends from Masonry, friends from church, and then there's my No Agenda family. It's really funny to say. It's really a part of me, and I don't know if you like it. I don't know if you'll like it, but maybe you should check it out and see. Talk to you soon. Thank you. I'll be right back to you after the message or interlude. Hey, you're back. It's Chris Abraham, episode 15, No Agenda Show, season 2, ChrisCast. And you can reach me at chris@abraham.su. You can reach me at CHRIS at No Agenda Social, which is a Mastodon instance, sort of like Twitter, but Mastodon, an open source federated social media platform. I'm at Chris Abraham on Twitter. I'm at Chris Abraham on Instagram. I'm at Chris Abraham on Google. I'm at Chris Abraham on YouTube. I am what I am. LinkedIn, I'm linkedin.com/in/Chris Abraham. Oh, and my website is chrisabraham.com. So you can also call me at 202-352-5051. It's also text, so +1 202-352-5051, and I look forward to texting, chatting, etc. with you. Talk to you soon. Goodbye, and come back next time. Aloha, mahalo.